do just want to give a disclaimer. I am not AI generated. I'm a real person, and so is Mark, and so is Donna. But we have had some fun in creating our presentation for you, and that we have used AI to generate the images that you're seeing in these slides. Because we can't get away from it now, right? So you saw Nikhil mentioned several services that you can access for that image generation, and we actually used Midjourney V5 to generate the images of the bots that you're seeing in this. So this is an interactive session. We would really like for you to participate. It's not too much of a lift, just a click here or there. So we're going to play a little game of true or false as it relates to GPT. With that being said, you already know who we are and that we are real live people. So let's kick this off. So the first question, ChatGPT and GPT are the same thing. So please go ahead and log your answers, and we'll give you just a second. And I'm not allowed to vote. This is very, that's disappointing, because it's the one time I'm pretty sure I'd get all the answers right. Okay, and I'll go ahead, Mark, and hand this off to you if you wouldn't mind, and you can go ahead and discuss.
Yeah, so it looks like most, about 90% of the people said it's false, and as Sharon said on her slide, it is false. So basically, but obviously they're very similar, sort of conceptually. So when we think of GPT, we'll start with just the three-letter code. That stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is a special type of AI model that kind of mimics the human utterance when giving the response. So it's an algorithm that's used in chats to generate sort of the response, if you will, versus ChatGPT, which is a specific use case of the GPT engine. And there are lots of different, so ChatGPT is really more of the conversational piece. It is a pre-trained model that has data from, I think it's 2021 is the most recent training of it. But they're obviously very similar, but different at the end of the day. And so, my question really to Donna is, obviously there's a lot of momentum about GPT, ChatGPT, GPT-4 in the marketplace. Are you hearing a lot of questions from your constituents about GPT, or any overarching themes or concerns from your perspective?
Thanks, Mark. So we're hearing from our agency partners who are in the audience today, the wide array of agency content managers and communications people. They're interested in ChatGPT. It's pretty exciting because the theme is less work. We don't have to manage the knowledge base of a chatbot so specifically, because we, as a government agencies, don't have the luxury of having somebody who can just dedicate themselves all day, every day to watching what's coming in a chatbot and trying to make sure we've asked or put the knowledge base with the exact question people are asking with the exact right answer. And as it changes, update the website, update the knowledge base. So the thought of having GPT just be able to answer questions for people with less effort is amazing. But we have the concern too, what is it saying? If it hasn't gotten the answers since 2021, that's really dangerous for government. Our answers have to be accurate and vetted, and our constituents are counting on us. So it's kind of that push-pull. We want that efficiency, but we also want the control.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, that's very, sort of helpful background, and certainly ties into what Nikhil was sharing. So in order to kind of round out the conversation and tie into that more closely, let's look at prompt number 2. As we think about, the information that the chat tool will be providing, true or false, GPT hallucinations are avoidable. I'll give you just a moment to log your response. Okay, and then Mark, you're up again.
Yeah, so the truth is that the answer is, I would say 99% true. And, you know, there could be a little hair of doubt there, but generally speaking, there are a few things that you can do to avoid those hallucinations. So the first thing is, I can talk from the perspective of how Ivy solved the hallucination problem. So for example, when an Ivy chatbot is built, we crawl all of the different properties that are a part of your ecosystem, whether it's a website, if it's a PDF file, a calendar, a spreadsheet, all of that information is sort of added to your bot's brain. And so what we decided to do at Ivy was to use GPT as the wordsmithing portion of our AI. So our AI at Ivy has two different sort of stacks, if you will. So the first stack is all of the documents. And by documents, I mean the individual sentences, paragraphs that are in all of the stuff, all of your assets. And we use what's called a vector database to identify the semantic meaning of what someone had asked and try to find the best article. The best article could be in a web page, it could be in a PDF, could be anywhere. And then what we do is we use, as Nikhil was mentioning earlier, we do prompt engineering so that the AI spits out an answer that only uses the content found from your assets, which by and large, probably 99.5% of the time will remove those hallucinations. But there are cases where you can get these little minute deviations in the answers, but it won't go afield. It just might choose the wrong response from your system. But generally speaking, hallucinations are avoidable, but you want to make sure that GPT is only doing the wordsmithing and you're not using GPT as the fact source for your information. And I think we'll talk a little bit more today about the importance of your one source of truth being your content, right? You don't want to rely on GPT or any other source. Where you want to focus on is keeping your knowledge up to date, your web properties up to date, your assets up to date, and your chatbot should really be the voice of your organization versus the brain. And so for me, you know, we have solved this GPT hallucination problem, but it's critical to make sure it's reading the right documents when answering those questions.
Yeah, and thank you, Mark. That's why I queued up the back end of just some screenshots of the back end, the admin portal from the Georgia Gov bot. So Donna, if you could talk a little bit about, you know, kind of how you've responded to these concerns about hallucinations and kind of elaborate a little bit on what you were sharing earlier, right? The importance of the accurate information.
Absolutely. So our constituents, in a lot of cases, are depending on the information that they're getting from us for their livelihoods, you know, for their careers in some cases. Maybe it's their unemployment insurance or SNAP benefits or whatever it may be. They need this accurate information. And when we even built and developed GovHub, we even named it Hub because our vision for GovHub was to be the center and the single source of truth, because we know our agencies don't have the luxury of people everywhere monitoring all the different channels and keeping everything up to date. If one thing has to be edited somewhere different, something is going to fall out of sync. And so our vision was that GovHub would be the source of truth for the agency's information. We focus on monitoring that content and making sure that it's accurate and well developed, and then let these other channels pull from there. And so now having the ability to have the brain of the chatbot learn from the website that we point it to and nowhere else is huge for us. And being able to use that language processing and context processing feature of GPT is also huge, because we don't know, is a constituent going to say, how do I apply for food stamps, or how do I get my SNAP benefits? We don't know. And if we don't have all that really explicitly stated in a knowledge base on a different kind of chatbot, we may miss the mark there. But we can utilize the GPT context and language processing to help us, you know, interpret these questions. We can see how people are asking the questions so we can better formulate our web content, but we'll focus on the web content. and let the other tools utilize it. It's just fantastic for us.
Yeah, thank you. And, you know, there's one little arrow at the bottom of the screen I want to call your attention to, because as you think about your web content being that single source of truth, it's important to maintain those guardrails on GPT to mitigate the hallucinations by having your content in your chatbot update consistently, right? If you're updating the information on your website, you want to make sure that it's, you know, pulling that updated information into your bot. And so ensuring that there's this this ecosystem of parity and fidelity. And so that's how we use the crawlers at Ivy to ensure that the content's updated on a daily basis.
Yeah, and one of the things, Sharon, just to piggyback on that,
Sure.
is so, you know, I've been doing chatbots for about 6 years, and there are really two major problems with chatbots in general up until this point. They're really hard to build and really hard to maintain. So to build a really high quality chatbot in the old world, you had to sort of enter utterances and responses, and you had to do that for thousands of them. If you think about all of the constituents for all of the different agencies, it's an impossible task. And then going beyond that, what happens is your information isn't static. It changes all the time, right? Instructions change, processes change, locations change. And so so it's very easy in the old world chatbots to, add an answer directly to the chatbot and then find out 2 years later that that answer is still in your bot's brain and being served up to your constituents. And so that can be a very significant problem. And so you really want to take manual data entry of information into your bot's brain and do not do it, and instead focus on your webmastering and web authoring tools to provide the best information that your chatbot can regurgitate and process information from.
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mark. Okay, I know you were all waiting and so excited to log your true or false again. So prompt number 3, GPT means less work for you. And this has been, I heard Nikhil mention it, and it's been discussed a little bit so far in this session. So we'll go ahead, and Donna, if you wouldn't mind, I think probably a very good place for you to kind of intro the slide and the result.
All righty, let's see what everybody said. I don't see the result. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's almost 50-50, just a little bit edging toward true. And in this instance, in this usage, when we're talking about the Ivy chatbot specifically, I'm going to say yes, exclamation point. It's less work for us, because if you compare it to other chatbots and setting up other chatbots, in the past that don't use the GPT technology and don't kind of train off of your website, you'd have to spend a lot of time up front setting that up, like an Excel spreadsheet. Here's the question, here's the answer. Here's a rewording of the question, here's the answer. Here's how you map this question to this answer, and keep that updated all as you go. But now we point the bot at the website or at the PDFs and upload the spreadsheets or whatever we want to do, and it learns pretty fast. So that's awesome. So just that part of it is less work. But then you think about it, your digital presence is centered around your website. That's the front door, your digital front door to your agency. And more people are so reliant on it now, especially even after COVID. They're just used to using your website. And so if you have a chatbot there also, it might help them if they're having trouble searching for things or they can't find it in the words, that they're using. The chatbot can bring that information forward, and maybe it'll deflect emails, maybe it'll deflect phone calls and walk-ins. So it's making less work for everybody, and then everybody can focus on the next level of work rather than, focusing on just kind of regurgitating the same information over and over. Maybe we can optimize and move forward instead of having to have, human resources handle things that the robot can. So I'll say yes, less work, and we're here for it.
And I love that you bring up human resources. So actually, Mark, I'm going to pass this ball to you and let you talk about sort of the end-to-end efficiencies that can be created as a result of this.
Yeah, so the when you think about GPT or ChatGPT, GPT-4, obviously the chatbot use case is just one specific use case, right? However, the chatbot in general could be used for constituents. It could be used for your staff, for HR. We have many customers who use it for what are my benefits, right? So there are certain cases, and I would call that customer service, that the GPT will make the customer service representative's life a little bit easier. Ultimately, I believe that GPT will end up replacing customer service generally, and then those people will be repurposed in other functionalities. But also, as we think about just HR in general, think about the task of a job posting, right? Writing a job posting to recruit a developer, or writing a job posting to recruit, someone to, manage your food stamps program. That takes time. It takes creativity, and it takes insight to write and time to write that. And by using GPT, you could write a prompt to say, write a job description for someone who could manage our food stamps program. Here should be their general requirements. And GPT will spin up a beautiful job description that then, of course, you come over the top and refine to meet your exact needs before, posting it on your job posting site of choice. But this obviously goes beyond, human resources. Think about your marketing team and your social media blogging and posting. That could be in part augmented by GPT. So as you think about your job tasks and the things that you do that require generating new content, think about this as an option, as a time saver. For example, I had a former employee who moved on to graduate school, and I used GPT to help write their recommendation. Saved me probably an hour of thoughtfulness, but I was able to capture the key attributes that made this person special and desirable to attend graduate school. But GPT sort of wordsmithed it in a way that saved me a lot of time and allowed me to focus on more useful activities. So I think it can be used in all of our jobs to some form or another. You just have to think creatively and then apply the technology appropriately for that use case.
Love that. I'm regretting not using GPT to write out all these slides. I feel like maybe that was a missed opportunity for some efficiency. So last prompt, all chatbots use GPT. I'm very curious to see what the response is here after Nikhil's session and after what we've discussed today. Okay, we're going to give another moment. All right, Mark, you're up. We should have those results. There we go.
Yeah, this is, so I would say in most cases, chatbots are not using generative. So basically, there are two major classifications of chatbots. There's what's called retrieval-based chatbots. A retrieval-based chatbot, think of it as like a canned answer. And so they seem very robotic. And so when Donna was talking earlier about maintaining this database of questions and answers, that's a retrieval bot. And retrieval bots work by sort of understanding what the person has asked and then doing almost like a lookup and finding the best matching utterance and then regurgitating that utterance. GPT, which is this brand new technology, is completely synthetic, or obviously generative, in the sense that you just have to put the knowledge into the brain, and then Ivy creates a prompt to repackage the information in that knowledge to regurgitate an answer that is contextually relevant, that mirrors the way that the person asked the question. So if someone says, how do I apply? As Donna mentioned earlier, could be for food stamps, it could be for a job. And so the using GPT is really great because we have engineered prompts to ask a follow-up question. Well, what are you interested in applying for? And if they say food stamps, then we know they're applying. So what we'll do is we'll actually reframe the question. So how do I apply? And then food stamps, we will regurgitate that or we will reframe it. So it's how do I apply for food stamps? And then we will find the answer for how to apply for food stamps. And so these two different categories of AI exist today. Most right now are this retrieval based, but there's going to be a major upswing over the next few years using GPT. Ivy just happens to be one of the first ones to the party, but I think a lot of people are going to follow on because, as I mentioned earlier, these two key problems of building and maintaining chatbots really make the generative option much more desirable for having a chatbot as part of your organization in the future.
Yeah, it brings you out of the proverbial stone ages and into, you know, a more future-facing, future-proofing kind of methodology behind your business. Donna, would you share a little bit about your journey in adopting, you know, Ivy and just kind of looking at chatbots in general?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So for our audience who doesn't already know, we had Ivy on our website from about a year ago on the digital services website. We put it out there as a proof of concept. And we also have other chatbots on other agency websites, you know, that were the best at the time. We have different kind of retrieval based chatbots, but we put Ivy out there because we wanted to see, what is this about? You know, is this something we want to offer our agencies? We want to see how much work is it and how well does it do? And it did great. But for, you know, for those of you who don't know, Ivy wasn't always using this advanced GPT technology. It just kind of was an upgrade that happened earlier in this year. And so now that it's called IvyQuantum and we have this new functionality, it's amazing. And so we had it out there on digital services for a year with the new functionality just for a little while. And our next step, we've taken it off of digital services because we're repurposing that chatbot and we're going to put it on Georgia.gov now because we're so excited about it. And we really want to get it out in front of the constituents who need that information that we have on Georgia.gov. We want to meet them wherever it is that they are. If they need a chat, if they want to email, if, you know, they want to make a phone call, whatever it is. And we have this ability now to give them that without having to have a full-time resource monitor it, as far as, you know, make sure every utterance is in there and make sure that we're watching every single question that gets asked, you know, to read the language and be sure that it got the right answer. Of course, we still monitor it, but, you know, it's just so much less work. And so we're very excited to put it on Georgia.gov. It'll be in the next couple of weeks or so. So I hope everybody, you know, we'll check it out on Georgia.gov and you know, see what you think and give us some feedback about how it's working and, you know, if it wants to be expanded.
Thank you, Donna. All right, so keeping an eye on time and wanting to make sure that we respect everyone's schedules today. I know that we're perhaps a little bit over, but I do want to just offer the opportunity, just as you did with Nikhil, if there are any questions, there may be some that have been served up and I have just not been watching. So please, let me see if I can navigate this.
Deborah will come and ask questions, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deborah.
You're very welcome. And thank you, Donna, Mark, and Sharon. You do have a few questions. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just mention that if we are unable to answer your questions live, our team will ensure that you do get an answer to your response. The first question we have here is, when teaching the chat box about the source of information, can we specify what pages of the website are used, or would it look through the entire website?
I can certainly field that one, and I think Donna and Sharon can. So with Ivy, you have two options for your website. You can crawl a single web page, which is not particularly useful, especially when you have hundreds of web pages. But you can also crawl the website with a specific crawler definition. And a crawler definition tells you which paths. So when you think about a URL, you'll have, ga.gov/ food stamps or whatever. You can create very specific crawler definitions that include the content that you wish to be in your bot and exclude the things that you don't wish to be in your bot. For example, if you have a blog talking about, a cooking class, probably not something that would be useful for most of your constituents. However, the location of the parks would be much more interesting, right? And so you'd want to make sure that you're including and excluding the right things, but you have full control and transparency over what knowledge goes in your brain. And it goes beyond your website too. It goes to, for example, if you have an online calendar of upcoming events for the state of Georgia, for your constituents, you literally just have to put a link to that online calendar, and the bot will generate all of the data such that if someone asks a question about either a date or an event, the bot will give the right answer. So yes, there's very granular control over the information. And then after the bot gives an answer, as Sharon was showing earlier, we pioneered this concept called trace answer to show you where it was sourced from. Did it come from your website? Did it come from a PDF document? And if so, we want to be able to give that end user a link to that source when it's appropriate so that they can actually read more about that content and not just the repackaged answer from GPT.
Okay, great response, Mark. Thank you. The next question is, how can an agency ensure security with GPT?
Yeah, I can take another shot at that one too. So there's a couple of things to think about with security as it relates to GPT. So how Ivy thinks about it is, so when someone sends an utterance to Ivy, the things that we care about and you care about, right, are privacy of information and security of that information. And so when someone asks a question, let's say that, I say, hi, my name is Mark McNasby, and my social security number is 12345. Let's say I say something that is ill-advised that you would ever say, but people make mistakes and they do things that are not necessarily in their best interest, but they're being, authentic and genuine. In those cases, we actually have a model before it's sent to GPT to purge that information of the personally identifiable information. And then we send it to GPT with a substitute like John Doe. And then when GPT sends the information back, we use John Doe, we transform that back to Mark McNasby. So it's a much more sort of human experience, but that data is never sent to GPT to protect your users. And then Ivy has a ton of security features, starting from physical security at the server, all the way to our training practices of when we're developing, when we're onboarding a new developer, that make sure that the data that's added to the Ivy system is in Georgia's control. And we believe that Georgia owns that data. We don't want to own the data. We're stewards of that data, and we will keep it secure. And so it never leaves our purview when answering a constituent's utterance.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mark. I think we may have time for just one more question. Let's see here. And you may have hit on this. The question is, how do you prep web content to get pulled by the bot?
Don, I don't know, Don, if you want to take a shot at that, I think you might be on mute, but.
Thank you. Yeah. So write the best, most accurate, up-to-date content that you can. Listen to Will and the content team about plain language and using, less words in your sentence and just more direct answers. And then put it on your website, keep it updated, and that bot will learn from your website when you initially set it up. And then on a daily, it's going to go through and find the differences. Like, oh, this was updated. Do you want to update this in your chatbot? Yes, I do. So really the best thing that you can do to write content for the chatbot is write content with your users in mind. Let it be plain, let it be simply spoken, let it be accurate and to the point. And the chatbot is going to benefit from that too.
All righty. Thank you so much, Donna. And again, thank you, Donna, Mark, and Sharon.